This is all I'm gonna do tomorrow is empty Wes's bank account, Harbor Freight, and AutoZone. Alright, what do you do when you have a 1400 horsepower long block, 10 grand in parts, a perfect shell to put it in? You fly your buddy in from Cincinnati and have him doing it in under a day.
Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. This is the night before the big day. We're going to install the engine back in the Mustang and basically get this bitch started up. Super excited. We got everything laid out here we're going to go over tonight. Drew is holding the camera right now. He flew out from Ohio, so huge shout out to Drew, Sleeper Solutions. If you guys didn't see the last video we did, I'll link it up above, but he did fly out and we yanked the whole engine out once we cracked the piston ring land and everything. It was an epic video, so I'll link that. But tonight, real quick, we're going to mess with the engine wiring harness. There's a couple of small things we have to modify since we did the battery relocation kit and the wire tuck for the engine bay. In the video, I'll link that too. But I don't really know what the hell we're about to do, so I'm going to let the expert talk and let's get into it.
Alright guys, happy to be back after a year or so. This has been a long project for Wes and I, so we've spent probably the last year since you guys watched that last video accumulating parts, getting this engine built, having it all set up, going through Todd for the cams, guy local to me, Logan, hooked him up with some powder coating parts, some of the best work I've seen in a long time. I can't believe how it turned out. Now, some of the other stuff that we're getting into is they have worked on doing the wire tuck that I sent them a while back. So there's some stuff that you have to do to the engine harness here, which mainly all you're messing with if you're doing a battery relocation is you've got to get rid of this alternator harness. So we're keeping the pigtail that sends the signal for the alternator to charge the battery, but the alternator power wire itself, which goes back to the fuse box, we're getting rid of. Because now we're going to run our alternator wire directly to the battery in the trunk, and then the battery positive wire straight to the fuse box. So we're going to get into stripping this harness here. Some of the stuff's not fun when it's coated in oil, but once you get that tape free, they wrap this stuff really well. This is kind of what the same stuff that you should do whenever you build a harness, is just wrap it and tape. We got like a couple connectors. They are part of the starter harness that stays on the short block part of it. I think one of these is starter trigger and one's a power supply. But like, see, like here's the part we're kind of getting to. So like we've got our power wire here, but this guy we've got to keep. The rest of this junk we got to get rid of. So we've been unwrapping this for a minute, and you'll reach a point where you start taking it apart, boom, it separates. So this is the part that we're trying to get to. So once we get that harness all separated, you don't have to depin anything if you have a stock ECU. If you have a Holly, you'll be depinning this entire harness. Like you'll be taking it all apart, which is another topic in itself. But for right now, we're just trying to get this harness separated. So this is your alternator harness, and it's tied in with factory one. So now this is kind of what it looks like dissected. You've got this plugs into your alternator. You've got a signal wire, which is 12 volts, which is what tells your alternator, hey, you need to charge the battery. And then there's another one, which is a signal wire that tells the gauge how much voltage you have. So that's what this wire is going into here, which this fusible link would have went to the fuse box. So we're getting rid of this harness right here, this big 4-gauge wire, and you'll be cutting this green wire flush here. And then what we will end up doing tomorrow when we mess with the car is I'm going to get a crimp connector, which this is something I've actually wanted to cover for a while. But when it comes to doing electrical stuff, instead of using traditional insulated butt connectors, so this is what everybody is used to using right here. These are bad. these can cause resistance. This insulator stuff can actually make signal wires read incorrectly. This is the stuff that you're looking for. So you can get these for pretty cheap off Amazon. They're basically solder. So then you do have to buy a tool for it, but I can promise you that it crimps way better than a traditional butt connector. That's a fact. The way they crimp, I mean, you've got a good seal. Like, I mean, you're not gonna pull a wire out. And then put your heat shrink over it, good to go. Like, so what we'll be doing here is we will be adding a eyelet to this thing after we extend it, but I will just put that end on there now. This is gonna have to plug into the alternator since the engine's backwards right now. We could face it here, but this harness is gonna have to reach all the way down over to here, like down where the fender rail is, which we'll be able to illustrate that better tomorrow. But I still have to extend this. Boom, that sucker ain't coming out. We'll get an eyelet for tomorrow, along with some other stuff, because all I'm gonna do tomorrow is empty Wes's bank account, Harbor Freight, and AutoZone. But
facts.
Yeah, so we'll be good. But looks like, I mean, dude planned everything out real well. He's got everything weighed out all nice. Like, this is gourmet, man. Like, this is
gourmet Italian.
This is gourmet. Like, couldn't ask for a more prepared way to do this for sure. Another thing too, if people were wondering, there is a bare wire here. It's this one. That's got a red wire on it. We covered it. This is your noise isolator for your coil packs. So like if you saw this sitting here, don't worry about it. It's supposed to have this end on it. I don't know why, but it's missing. They come off all the time. But and if anybody noticed that or not, might throw that little detail in there. I'm excited about tomorrow.
Dude, I'm so excited.
Like I've been waiting all month for this.
The wiring I think is gonna suck, but after that it's just gonna be cranking.
And then we gotta do your fuel system too. The fuel system's gonna be nice. And if you guys have used these before, this thing is like $60 at Harbor Freight. It is a total life saver. It's a rivet nut or nut cert tool, which allows you to have a threaded die that will go on here. And then you can drill a hole that's about the same size as the shell, and then when you compress it, the outer shell compresses with it. So, and then now, in that hole you made, you have a permanent threaded hole, and it's not coming out. We're going to mount your fuel pump controller. We're going to mount some of your brackets for the fuse box. Try to clean up some other stuff, just mounting it. Like this thing is like, it's worth every freaking penny. All right, what do you do when you have a 1400 horsepower long block, 10 grand in parts, a perfect shell to put it in? You fly your buddy in from Cincinnati to have him doing it in under a day. We'll see you tomorrow. Okay guys, so it's the very next day. We've got to finish up a lot of stuff. We've got to do the wire tuck along with some other stuff with the fuel system. So the one thing I mainly wanted to help them with was mounting the fuse box and all the associated stuff with that. We've got the original fuse box bracket. This is actually bent, I believe downward. Yeah, downward. We bent it upward, and now we're going to try to put it in here. And this is where our rivet gun tool is going to come in handy, because right here we're going to be able to add a fastener. Got our deal right in there. That's our new fastener. So now we'll be able to have this guy right there. This thing's completely serviceable now. I got to add one more down here. So 5mm for the bottom, 6mm for the top, along with the washers that we have. And that's kind of always what you want, is a semi-tight fit. This might be a little loose. We might have to go the size up, which is no big deal. Alright, as you saw, we just got the bracket installed. It looks really good. So now we still have it to where the fuse box is serviceable. Boom, right in there, just like that. And then He can still get to his fuses, which most of these fuses you really don't need to get to. But the main part is it's flush, it's in a nice area, it's tucked away. We're going to be working on our power supply. So we've got our main harness here, and on my car I ran it along here, which was a mistake. So I'm going to try to do Wes's car a little bit different from what I've learned and mount his up here, because when the wheel turns, it would technically rub this harness apart. So that's how we're going to run it. Okay guys, so typically what most plugs people run in these engines is a 4177 TR6 NGK plug. We're switching to the BR7 EFs. It's a way colder heat range plug. As you can tell, the difference here, the heat range is how far up the porcelain sits in the plug. Obviously this is what's recessed way down farther. It's a colder plug. So, and right off the rip, these things out of the box are at 28 thou. So these are perfect for what he wants to do. So that's what we're going to be running. I honestly recommend everybody run these plugs. It's just a better overall plug. Okay guys, so just a while ago we were working in the wheel well, getting everything done for the wire ton. We had to finish putting together some stuff for the engine because I had to map out how much room I have on the harness here. Now, this is your starter harness. This actually connects to your battery and then to your fuse box. Some of this we have to trim up. I actually just cut it right here because this end will just go straight to your fuse box from your battery and then supply power to your starter. And then right here is your ground supply for your starter and all the harness here. So we nip that off too. We are going to strip the wire off here and here and here. And we are going to make new terminal ends over here on the table. So I'll show you that over here. Okay guys, so now we're going to make a ground wire real quick. We're just going to strip off a couple wires here. Typically I would use a hydraulic crimper. That's what I got back at home. But today, if you don't have one too, this is also good info. You can just use a table vise here like what we got. So strip this wire off real quick. Right there, and then when you've got big gauge wire like this, you can take a set of wire crimpers right here and you can just carefully cut it around in a circle. And you're not cutting the actual copper, but you're just cutting the insulation. You can just barely feel it, and you just slowly work it. Boom, look at that, just like that. So, now we've got our 3 pieces here. This isn't the best way to do this, but for what we're being dealt, this is going to work great. Because we're going to add a ground to the chassis right in that same fender well area that we were working on. Always remember to put your heat shrink on first. So we get all of our wires here. Put them on there. Boom, that looks nice. So now we've got it all crimped out. It's not coming off. Slide our heat shrink over. Alright, anyway. Yeah, get your heat shrink on. Try to be real careful with it. Try not to melt the dang thing. Okay guys, so now we're going to start working on extending some wires. This is the only wiring that you have to extend to do the wire tuck. So we're going to add, shoot, I don't know, about 12 inches, 12, 14 inches to this harness here. We're going to start working on that here. We're just not doing anything really crazy. Getting your crimps in. And there's one. Crimp it, make sure it doesn't come off. Put her in our other end, twist her end. Cool beans, that's all done. Grab our heat shrink, slide it on over. That's what's really nice about these crimp connectors versus where that butt connector would be out to here per se, and you only have this much freedom. Now you have all of this, like, and it's much smoother, looks better. It's also not a race to do your heat shrink. Just take your time. Like, that's what's really important, because most people end up burning it or, you know, melting it, making it bubble up, and then you see that when you wrap up the harness at the end of the day. I had to grab our trash can real quick, but I cut a little much, so just trim it off real quick there. If you have, I typically, like, in this situation, this specific wire would use this blue, so that would be a perfect fit for it. But the other end of the other gauge wire that we have is way smaller than that. So what I like to do is if I can't get it to go in immediately, what you can do is, not a lot of people like this, but you can just trim off like 2 or 3 strands right there. You still got the wire, current draw is the same, nothing's changing. Boom, it goes right on. Just made my life way easier. Now, since we've got this dude, our yellow wire is going to, our yellow wire, right here, trim it. Boom, same deal. Don't forget your heat shrink. I almost did. Take your other harness. And this is just something I'm OCD about. If I stick it in there and there's spare wire showing, I trim it. Every time. I like that flush look. Even though you can't see it with the heat shrink on, it's what I like to do. Boom. Right there, just like that. Slide our heat shrink back over it. Good there. Work it around the circle, watch it shrink down. Boom, that's one end of our harness. Alright, I'm going to finish this other wire because it's basically the same thing. But then I'm going to show you guys looming this, putting in the wire loom, going over that, and how to tape it. Cool, so we got our harness made. We made our extensions here, as you can see. Now, when you are looming a harness, the easiest way, before you loom it, you would think you would typically just put the plastic loom in, do your thing, whatever. No. Let's make this easier for ourselves. The way to make this tighter is we want to take little sections and wrap them. This adds structure to your harness, just a little bit. Alright, cool. So now, harness is made. Best tool ever, 54 bucks on Amazon. Like, cuts everything. Get rid of my chain. Now it's on bar. I'm going to tape around here and you kind of want to have that OEM look. So just take your time. This is the most time consuming part, because if you try to do this really quickly, it's not going to come out that well. So just slowly wrap it. You make a mistake, it's okay. No big deal. Okay guys, so apologize, we're not filming that much. We're just trying to crank as best we can right now. Right now we are working on the battery relocation. All of the engine wiring is done so far. We have just this left and the fuel system wiring left, so shouldn't be too much more, and then we'll be able to put the engine in the car. So since we're working on this right now, I already pre-drilled the holes in the box. I determined that we're going to put it about right here. It's an easy way for him to be able to still have storage space. It'll fit around everything, and he'll be able to easily lift the battery in and out, because you got to think about those things. So now I'm going to get in here and mark everything. Ooh, perfect fit.
Alright guys, as you can see, it's the next day here. We're jumping onto the fuel system. We got the battery relocation kit pretty much all tucked away. There's a few minor things we'll show you in a second, but we got the fuel tank lift basically here to support. Got to drop this thing. Of course it's almost full of fuel. It's my idiotic fault, but
hey, we don't anticipate failures around here. Especially ringland failures.
Yeah, that's true. So we're gonna set you up right here and get cracking.
Okay guys, as you just saw, we got the tank out, and actually this came out pretty well. I'm surprised at the condition that the tank and everything is in. Most of these tanks, you'll see them, they've got a lot of rust around them on the outside, no big deal. It's usually these lines right here for your evap system or your canister system, that the lines right here, they melt. And then that's why when you go to the pump and try to fill it up, and the pump keeps shutting off, because the evap canister cannot purge out all the pressure inside the tank. But everything in here is in perfect condition. So now we're going to talk about some other things too. Since this is a GT tank, this is a non-baffled tank, this is a bucket style tank. So what that means is, dimensionally this is the same as an 0304 Cobra tank, but it does not have internal baffles on the inside. And the hat is completely different. So what we've got here is here, we're going to put this on the ground real quick. Kind of what we're talking about here is that this is a bucket style system. On a Cobra hat, it would be all one piece here, and it would come straight out. This, you've got these two tabs here on the side, and boom, this thing slides right out. Careful with our filler neck here. We're going to dump all the fuel out. Not my best draft pour, but yeah, this is the stock jump.
Start it up.
I guess I have to brake less as hard. You alright, buddy? You alright? Okay. Okay guys, so we finally have the battery relocation wiring done. Alternator wiring, everything. So here we have our wiring for our switch. This is actually straight off the battery. This will go to the top of the switch. And then when you flip the switch on, it'll send power to the fuse box up front. We got everything routed along here as best we could. We'll also have our alternator harness here. This is our fusible link. We have another 200 amp fuse inside of the battery box, but we wrapped it around the diff, routed it kind of the same way as the fuel system here, with P-clamps and zip ties, routed along the frame rail here. It's well protected from, it's got plenty of ground clearance, and then it's all wrapped up to here with the alternator wire heading up to here. We're going to run this through the valley of the block, right on the back of it, and then it'll be out of the way. And then we've got our main power right here. So next we'll be hooking up this ground wire somewhere around this vicinity area with a rivet insert, and then this will go in the fuse box and the car will have power. So that will finish up the wire tuck completely. We do a couple of other things for the fuel system wiring in the trunk, and then we're gonna put the tank in, and we're gonna show you how to make some PTFE lines. This is the part I'm really excited for. I love making PTFE lines. Let's get to it. Okay guys, so we're gonna go over making a PTFE line. PTFE line is braided hose with a nylon insert. Usually when you get it here, it's cut and it's kind of rough on the ends. So to protect yourself, the best way you should do it, you don't have to do this, but you can take some electrical tape, wrap it there, put your cutters. You can also use a cutoff wheel if you do not have these, but it's boom. You got a nice solid cut right there. Take a pair of channel locks, and we just open it right there. Try to get it back to round. Try to be real easy with it. Take our electrical tape off. That keeps that, when you cut it, the braided line will flare out and then it becomes a pain. We don't want to do that yet. So, and I'll show you here, this is our fitting. Alright, so you've got your collar, your olive, and then this is the fitting itself. So, right here you want to kind of test fit the fitting. Make sure it goes in. Alright, opening it up. And we take a screwdriver, a little pick, and we just slowly move it around, and it flares it out. And you don't want to try to dive into the nylon because you will cut it. This is making room for our olive. And just work your way down slowly. Take your time. Now, take our olive and put it on. You can see there's a lip that it meets with flush. Now, you can take a thing of motor oil or assembly lube, anything, grease if you want. And just to make life easier, lube the fitting, lube the threads. Boom, goes right on. Slide it in. Typically, if you do this right, you'll acquire little to no resistance tightening the fitting up. I think PTFE fittings are 10 times easier to make than AN rubber hose lines. I actually can't stand making AN rubber hose lines, but PTFE is the way. It has a burst pressure of 3,000 psi, working pressure of 1,500. It's perfect for hydraulic stuff. Everything on my car is PTFE. The power steering lines, fuel system, everything. So, get it down. Boom. There you have it. Perfect line.
Alright guys, we're back. It is another day in paradise in the shop here. It's probably 93 degrees with humidity once again, so we're about to drip sweat all night. Working to get the engine in here. So we just made a run to 3 different auto parts stores to get flywheel bolts because they're a torque to yield, and we only have 6 from our old one and we need 8. And the help section was garbage. They didn't have anything. So really did not put us in a good spot because we're probably not going to be able to start the car today, but at least we can get the engine in, all the harnesses and the fuel system wrapped up here, wire everything up, and basically get her dropped into the bay there. So at least it'll make my life and Austin's life in a couple days, hopefully, when we get all that easier. Without further ado, we're going to set you up on the tripod and get some glamour shots of putting the engine together.
guys, so it is the end of the third and final day that I'm here. We try to get as much done as we can. I quickly realized how easy we have it back home in Ohio on getting parts. Trying to source even the simplest of things is damn near impossible here. So we weren't able to get flywheel bolts. We did end up getting a flywheel, but just there's a couple fittings and other necessary things just missing that we'll have to order, and it's the week out, it's the holiday weekend, so things are to be expected. But we did get a ton done. All the wiring is done, the engine's in the car, and even though it's not done, I think it looks pretty good. So take a look. I think the wire tuck complete, and all the junction boxes out of the way. Like, it looks pretty good. The powder coating that Logan did is phenomenal.
Oils.
It looks so good.
Black powder coat on all the pulleys. Phenomenal. And the whole timing cover.
Like, everything looks pretty good. I mean, I did some cool trick stuff with the fuel system as much as I could in the time that we had. We're gonna have him get a couple different fittings for the rails and stuff to do things. A couple ways that I want to do it. But we even got the fuel regulator hidden back here, which I think is just awesome. Let me get a light. Like, that looks so cool back there.
Tucked away.
So tucked away, hidden out of the way. Nothing's around on the side. So once we get the turbo in here, you know, just be turbo, engine bay, a couple hoses and wires, like just how it should be. So I'm excited with how it turned out. I think we did a good job for the time we were dealt. I mean,
we busted ass for 3 days straight, like all day.
It's been rough. It's been hot.
Yeah.
Like, it's been pretty hot out.
95, no AC in the shop.
Okay guys, well, I enjoyed it. I hope you guys enjoyed it as well. I always love coming out here. Hope you enjoyed watching, and we'll see you next time.